Note that the public section of the meeting will be recorded and published online for public access after the meeting. Can all attendees switch off their camera and mute their microphone when not speaking? The camera and microphone should only be switched on when you are invited to speak. If you wish to speak, please use the raise your hand function on the toolbar.
Okay, thanks very much, Mrs. Robertson. I think we did have a hand up there, but it's gone back down again. So I'm hoping that's maybe just we didn't need to speak. Could we go through the apologies first of all, Mrs. Robertson?
Yes, thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Bruce Fackerson, who is substituted by Che Ewing, from Richard McCallum, Alistair Robertson, Jonathan Smith, who is substituted by Lavina Massey, and from Luann Gruja.
Thanks very much, Mrs. Robertson. Firstly, let me extend a welcome to our substitutes, Che Ewing and Lavina Massey. We're pleased that you're able to join us today. I think we also have a new member to the board who's joining us for the first time, which is Professor Pete Edwards, who's the Vice Principal at the University of Aberdeen, and he is replacing Carl Leidecker on the board. So welcome to you, Professor Edwards, as well. We look forward to your contribution. And as Ms. Robertson mentioned there, Bruce Fackerson isn't with us today, and I believe that Bruce is going to be stepping down from his role on the board because he's taking up a new position with Scottish Fire and Rescue Service. I think he's going to be the Deputy Assistant Chief Officer and Head of Training for the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service. So I think it's appropriate maybe just to say a few words about Bruce before we start the meeting, because Bruce has been on the Aberdeen Community Planning Partnership Board since 2017, when he took up his post as the local senior officer for Aberdeen City. And I think it's safe to say that over the last 4 years, Bruce has been a very active member of the Community Planning Aberdeen Board. He has helped to shape our local outcome improvement plan, and he's also ensured that there has been close alignment between the LOIP and the local fire and rescue plan. This has been, I think, an essential factor to make sure that the channeling of local resources goes exactly to where they are required and helps us to improve outcomes from the city and ensures that local fire staff are engaged in partnership improvement activities where they can make the greatest difference. And I've been particularly impressed with the steps that Scottish Fire and Rescue have taken to make sure that their staff have engaged with local communities in the improvement work to improve community safety. And I know that Bruce has been instrumental in encouraging that work to happen. So I just wanted to lay on record that I personally have enjoyed working with Bruce, and I'm sure that you'll all join me in thanking Bruce for his contribution to community planning Aberdeen Board, and wish him well in his new role that he will be taking up with Scottish Fire and Rescue Service. So I'll thank you for joining me in that. Declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest today? Not seeing anybody indicating, so I'll take that as a negative. Right, that takes us on to item 1.1, which is the minute of the board meeting, which took place on the 15th of September, which is here for approval. I think there was a couple of questions which were raised at the meeting, and I think there was an email should have gone out to all board members yesterday just detailing the responses to the questions that were raised. So are we content to approve the minute? Not seeing anybody dissenting from that, so I'll take it that we are. That then takes us on to item 1.2, which is the minute of the management group, which took place on the 27th of October, which is here for noting. Are we content to note? Yes, not seeing anybody saying any differently, so that's good. Right, that takes us on to item 1.3, which is the Community Planning Aberdeen Board Forward Planner, which obviously details the business that we will have on today's meeting and indeed future meetings as well. Are we content to agree that? Yes, I think we are, so that's good.
All right, yeah, no, I did it, yeah.
I'm not sure, we seem to have somebody that's maybe not muted at the moment. If I could maybe just ask you to mute, just so that we don't get any feedback, that would be helpful for the recording. Thank you. Okay, that then takes us on to, we have no national update today because unfortunately Richard McCallum has not been able to join us. As you know, our normal practice is to ask board members if there are any questions ahead of the meeting. I'm not aware that any were submitted, but I think we maybe do have Liz Aston with us today, who is here on behalf of Richard McCallum. But Liz will just be, you know, if anybody has any questions or comments that they want to raise today, Liz will make sure that those are fed back to Richard so that he can obviously provide responses if required. Are there any questions or comments anybody wanted to make in relation to the national update item on the agenda? Not seeing anybody indicating, so I'll take that as a no at this stage. Okay, item 2.1 is the North East of Scotland College strategic plan for 2021-2023. And I think we've got Robert Laird with us, hopefully, who is the Head of Planning and Academic Partnerships at the college. Robert, do you want to say a few words about the plan before I open up for any questions or comments?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to introduce NESCOL's strategic plan for 21-23. This plan is submitted to the board to raise awareness and to show alignment to the refreshed LOIP. It's important to highlight that the college actively seeks an opportunity to strengthen existing partnerships and develop new ones. Within the paper, I've given a link to the strategic plan. There are 5 strategic aims which are noted in the paper. For each of the aims, there is a set of objectives and also a set of key performance indicators. The strategic plan is underpinned by 8 supporting strategies, and these documents are available through the link, again embedded within the paper. The college's contribution to the refreshed LOIP is shown in Appendix 2 of the strategic plan and also is summarised in the paper. The college is currently a member of the board, a member of the management group, and 4 outcome improvement groups. I'm happy to provide any further information if required.
Thank you very much, Mr. Laird, for just giving us a quick resume of the plan. Hopefully members of the board have had an opportunity to look through the plan and the covering report. As you say, I mean, I think we're obviously pleased that the alignment of NESCOL's plan, strategic plan, with the LOIP is very important. We're very keen to encourage all partners to be looking at having their strategic plans aligned to the LOIP to make sure that we are targeting that resource to the best possible place. So I'll maybe open up to see if there's any questions or comments from board members. Yes, Chief Superintendent MacDonald, I'll bring you in first.
Thanks, Chair. It was just on that point. I think it's just really refreshing to see the alignment to the LOIPs and how the plan, your strategic plan dovetails into that. And the Chair and myself, we spent a fair bit of time, when was it? Earlier this year, was it? Earlier this year it was, linking in with across the partnership, just on that point, Robert, about making sure that actually we're all focusing towards the common aims and outcomes in terms of the priorities locally. And it's really refreshing to see that. It's probably the first that we've seen with that changes, Jenny, since we've had those conversations. So it's good to see that come to fruition. So I thank you. And it was Ken that we spent a lot of time talking this through with. So Ken, I appreciate your support. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I would just underline that. I mean, it does. I was trying to rack my brain there to think exactly when we did meet up. It seems, in one way, it seems a long time ago, and then in another way, it was a moment ago. But yeah, I think it was good for us to get the opportunity to have that discussion. But also, when you see that coming through in the plan, I think it's it's clearly visible that that alignment is there. And also the fact that the college is playing such a leading role in a number of the improvement groups and things as well can only benefit people within the city as a result of that, I'm quite sure. So thanks to the college for that. Not sure if we've got any other questions or comments. Not seeing anybody indicating. So I think we can take it that other board members feel the same way, Robert, in that respect. So thank you for that introduction. It was obviously here just for us to note the report and obviously give any comments that we had. So thanks again for introducing that and indeed for presenting the plan to the board. I think it's important that we see partners' strategic plans when they're completed. Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, that then takes us on to item 3.1, which is our Community Planning Aberdeen Improvement Programme quarterly update. Now, this is in a different format than we've seen previously, so I'm going to bring in Michelle Coughlin to just give us a little bit of a presentation around this, and I think Michelle is going to share her screen with us so that we can all see the different parts that Michelle's going to refer to. So over to you, Michelle. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Hopefully everyone is able to see my screen now. This is the first update report that we brought to the board since our LOIP was refreshed in July, and our underpinning improvement programme was agreed at the last meeting. So I just thought it'd be helpful to share, just to kind of direct you around the pages, since it's the first time you've looked at it. We've made what we hope to be some improvements to this report to take on board previous feedback from members. Now, previously you would have received project charters and progress updates for all of our LOIP projects, which I appreciate that is a lot of information to work through. So what we've done is create a higher level summary report for you, which will give you an overview of progress against our 15 stretch outcomes, with the option of selecting links in the report to further detail on the individual reports if you want to look at individual projects further. So at the moment what I'm sharing is I'm on page 39 of your pack, which is where the summary report begins. This summary table on the page shows you that of the 75 project aims we have in the LOIP, 34 of those are completely new, and it's for those 34 projects that we'll be bringing charters to the board for your approval, so just the 34 new ones. For the other charters, those will go through our outcome improvement groups. So as per the scheduling in our improvement programme that you approved at last meeting, 16 of these new charters were due to come to the board today, and we've received 13. So the remaining 3 charters are to be postponed to a future meeting of the board, and you'll see that in the pages, column pages. So just moving on to page 40, once you've kind of had the summary table, what we then do is from here you can examine the overall performance trend for each of our 15 stretch outcomes and where we are in terms of the improvement projects linked to those stretch outcomes. So this is just a 2-page summary so that you're able to scan through and have a look. Now at the moment we're largely doing quite well, which is to be expected because we're early on in our improvement programme. So at the moment everything's on track or nearly on track. Once you've kind of had a look through stretch outcomes 1 to 15, we do then provide in this report a breakdown per stretch outcome, and that's where you'll see progress against the individual improvement projects. Now what this gives you is some summary explanation against each of the projects, and it gives you key highlights in terms of outcomes and activity, and also any key issues that the outcome improvement groups want to bring to your attention. So we have one of those for each of the 15 and along with our RAGIN. So what we hope is that will direct your attention to those areas that need your kind of closer examination. So of course we want to celebrate success as well as deal with the issues. So obviously I'd encourage members to review the highlights for all of the stretch outcomes. But in terms of today in particular, I would draw the board's attention to some issues that are raised on stretch outcome 11. So we'll just take you to that now. So you'll see there are lots of good highlights, but also we are also drawing your attention to some issues there, and we also have some issues highlighted against stretch outcome 12. So hopefully that will support you in your role to kind of look at those key areas for your attention. The last thing that I wanted to really highlight you here is that from this overview report, you can drill into the individual projects just by selecting the project aim. So where a project has provided a more detailed update, you can simply click onto that and it will take you into that more detailed information. So giving you a bit of choice about what you look at rather than having to look at everything. So that's really it for the progress summaries. What we also have today is at the end of the progress summaries, we do include the 13 new charters that we're bringing forward to the board today for you to consider. These have been through the management group, but they're here for your final comment and approval.
Thanks very much for that, Michelle. I think that's helpful that you've been able just to demonstrate how to navigate the documents. As you've mentioned, it is a new format for us. I think there's always the difficulty of getting that balance between too much or too little information, and often I think for officers, you know, sometimes when you give us you know, more information, we say, oh, it's too much, and we, you know, sometimes we complain when it's not enough. But I think with the new format, we're obviously getting that overview at the higher level, but it's quite clear from what you've demonstrated there that there is the ability to drill down into the further information, which I think will be helpful for the board, because that's something that we can do out with the board meetings as well, isn't it? Because I think the dashboard will be there for people to be able to go in and look at that at their leisure as well, which is very useful. I'll maybe just open up and see if we've got any questions, first of all, on the actual new format of what we've got and the information that was there. The other bit that I liked was it was about the highlights and the risk elements there, because I think that gave us greater focus as well, which I think was really good. But I'll maybe open up to other board members to see if we've got comments or questions. So I'll bring in Gordon McDougall first, because I saw his hand first. Thank you, Gordon. Sorry, Gordon, I think you're on mute.
Thank you, Chair. You think I'd know by now, eh? Yeah, no, just wanted to say I agree with you. Say thanks very much. I think the new format's really good. Visually very appealing. I think it's easy to read. I know how difficult it is, as you say, to match all the various you know, maybe requests that you might get, but I think well done on this one. I think I take the point about information, but I think the information is given. It's also about the quality of the information, and I think the quality of the information you've provided on that and the new project information is just really good. I think if it is all there, it makes it a little bit easier for us to then not come back with a whole load of questions, which is only saying I'm quite comfortable because I've read through, and most things that I would have asked, I think, are well answered. So just to say, very much appreciate the work that's gone into it, Chair. I think it's an excellent format, much easier to read, digest and understand. So thank you.
Thanks very much, Gordon, for that. I think that's helpful feedback for Michelle and others on the new format. Any other questions or comments? Not seeing anybody indicating, so maybe I'll ask about, because Michelle, you've obviously mentioned there that we also have some new project charters before the board today. I think we were expecting 16, but we have 13 that have come forward, and there's obviously explanations as to why the other 3 have not been submitted at this time, which obviously people can, I'm sure, have digested. But I'll maybe just open up to see if anybody has any questions on that Appendix 2, which contains the new project charters for those 13 new projects. As Michelle said, they have gone through the management board before they come up to, or the management group, I should say, before they come up to the board level. But it does give board members an opportunity, if there is anything within the charters that they wanted to query at this time. Again, I'm not seeing anything. Emma can maybe help me if there is anybody indicating that. Right. No, I'm not seeing anybody, so I'm presuming that people are content with what we are seeing there. If we, oh sorry, yeah, Gordon's giving the thumbs up. I thought it was a hands up. It's a thumbs up, which is always
thumbs up.
Thumbs up, good for that. Okay, the recommendations are contained within the report on page 37. In effect, we are approving the new charters. We are approving the proposed schedule of the 3 new charters, which are due to be submitted to the board in November 2021, but have been postponed. So we're approving the new timescale for that. We're approving the 1 new charter that will go to February, but has been postponed. We're agreeing that with that, and we're also agreeing that the rescheduling of 7 of the revised charters, which were due to have been submitted to their respective outcome improvement groups, but have been postponed. So we're agreeing to all of that. Are we comfortable to do that, or do we have any issues with recommendations? Not seeing anybody indicating, so I'll take it that we are content with that. So thank you for that, Michelle. Okay, that now takes us on to item 4.1, which is our Child Poverty Plan Action Report. And we have Mr. McGowan with us. Here he is. Derek, do you want to say a few words on this before I open it up for questions?
Yes, thanks, Chair. This is a report that was requested a few months ago by Operational Delivery Committee, who were looking for a half-yearly update on the steps being taken to eradicate child poverty. I think the important point to note for this report, and hopefully you'll get time to look through it, is that the data for the reporting year is not yet available. This is data that's normally provided by HMRC on child poverty, and they use a range of data sets to compile that, and that gives each local authority area the rate of child poverty within the city or within the local authority area. I was expecting that to be available in September. It's still not available, and I've checked again today, and it's still not been provided. So I think there's a caveat with the report. While the appendix demonstrates some of the work that we have been doing, and we can see some progress in areas, what we don't have is the actual impact of that work on the child poverty rate. The important thing being that this reporting cycle is for the year that the major work on the pandemic was undertaken. So I think it's an important caveat, and it probably limits the effectiveness of the report because we don't have the full outcome and availability of what we've achieved through the work that the partnership knows was carried out over that year and beyond. So I think that's the important element. You can see in the appendix that there has been work ongoing to tackle child poverty, but as yet that context can't be provided.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Derek. As you see, I mean, it's heartening for us to see the work that's been happening on the ground, and I think that gives the board the opportunity to just see the range of interventions and things that are going on. But as you say, without those national kind of figures to see if we're making progress, it's difficult to just analyse that in the context. I know that we'd initially spoken about, I think it was delayed for the Operational Delivery Committee on that basis. Do you have any, you mentioned there that you were expecting them to be. Is there any indication as to when those national figures will actually become available, or are we not getting any information around that situation?
I was expecting them round about now. They were pushed back. Last year they came around about the same time. It was the start of December, and that meant I was able to report to the Council Committee, Operational Delivery Committee in January. So on the basis that they may come in the same time this year, then hopefully in the next week or so, but I really don't have any further information. There's a few people just waiting to find out when they're published, and then I'll be able to update, even provide an interim update on that once that's available.
Okay, that's fine. Our next meeting, of course, is February, I think, so perhaps by that point we would be able to get that. Now, I'm noticing that Lavina has her hand up, so I'll bring her in next, Derek. So Lavina, over to you.
Right, thank you. I'm just looking to see, it was something that Jonathan asked me to raise on page 173, whereas the people who are taking part in all the projects and things, and naming them, and he said he didn't see the works, the Department of Works and Pensions in that, and he felt that it should be very much, they should be very much part of that. I don't know. I was trying to find it on. Oh God, my phone has just shut down on me. I was trying to find the actual paper. Yes.
I think I'm looking at it. I think it was the financial support services with regard to all aspects of income maximisation. That's on page 173. So I'm presuming that's maybe where he's referring to that.
Yeah.
Because I think there are obviously a number of organisations listed, but Mr. McGowan, would we expected to see the DWP there?
They'll be linked in, but this project specifically looks at provided support within the hospital setting, and so it's NHS staff that are helping to support that, along with the council's financial inclusion team. So we would work with DWP, but it's just because it's in the hospital setting, it's a more restricted group of staff.
Mm-hmm. Okay, will you explain that to Jonathan, or will you leave it to me, or what?
I can explain that to Jonathan if it helps, Lavina.
Yes, thank you. Because okay. I haven't even read the papers. I only got dragged into this late last night, and you know, I'm like a fish out of a pond. Trying to understand what I'm trying to say.
It's always difficult if you haven't had the full opportunity to go through the papers. And I know, Lavina, you obviously mentioned at the beginning of the meeting that you had been asked as a very late in the day to act as a substitute.
Yeah.
But so we appreciate that. Sometimes it's not easy to, particularly if it's somebody else's query that you're bringing forward. But I'm sure Derek can liaise with Jonathan around that, and maybe just allay any concerns that he's got about the organisations that we're working with and the government departments, just to make sure that we've got that fully covered.
He's maybe hadn't realised that it was sort of narrowed down. It wasn't a sort of general way of raising finance or something. I don't know, but yeah. That was what he asked me to raise, so I've done it.
You've done it. We can testify. He can go back and look at the recording and make sure that's been done. So
Thanks very much.
I appreciate that. Thank you for that, Lavina. I've got a couple of questions because I'm not seeing any other hands, Derek. So maybe if I can just ask them, and if anybody else wants to come in, you can just raise your hand and we can take you in afterwards. Page 147, Derek, there's mention of, this is in relation to providing more support to children and families in early years, and it's to do with health visitors and family nurses. And there's mention that there is still an information governance obstacle to overcome, in that NHS Grampian have requested further information on the referral process and how information will be shared with an agency external to NHS Grampian. I'm aware that obviously we're governed by very strict rules around the sharing of data and things. So, but are we likely to be able to overcome that? Because I think during COVID, we've seen how the sharing of information and data has helped different partners to react to the current situation. And I'm wondering if we could utilise what we've learned through that to help us overcome those obstacles.
Yeah, I think plans had been developed, but they were waiting to be signed off, Chair. So, what I can do is go back and get an update on that.
Mm-hmm. I think it would be helpful if we could see it, and then I'll maybe bring in Caroline because she might be able to give us an update from her perspective.
Thank you. Apologies for being late. So happy, Derek, to become involved or to understand. I think there's a couple of things. I think, Jenny, you're absolutely right in regards to how we have learned the art of the possible. However, there is also a considerable backlog and workload for that team. So if I can understand, Derek, where we're at in the process, I am absolutely more than assured that Alan Bell, who is our head of IG in health, will do what he can to support the work. I think there are numerous examples of where we have worked collaboratively around improving our IG tolerance, risk tolerance for the best outcomes for citizens. So pick it up with Alan, and if you need any additional support, absolutely happy to become involved to make sure we expedite that as quickly as possible.
That's Caroline. I think that's really useful, and I'm sure Derek will take you up on that. So thanks for that. Derek, the next question that I have is on page 148. First of all, in the progress in relation to the financial inclusion referral pathways one, there's mention of an allocation of 22,000 has been issued for 2019-20. C planned action for 21-22 against the funding below. Are those dates correct? Because they didn't seem to correlate.
It should be 2021. Well spotted. Apologies.
Okay, no worries. It was just when I was reading it, I wasn't quite sure what had happened there. Yeah. And also on that page, Derek, it mentions that the percentage of Aberdeen city households considered to be in fuel poverty is given on that page as 21.1%. But when I go to page 152, it actually gives a figure of 23% of households are believed to be in fuel poverty. And I just wondered why we had the difference in that.
It should be 23 in the first, apologies. The first mention should be 23%.
Okay, so we can maybe get that
kind
of tidied up. And the other aspect was on page 149. There are a couple of, we've just got question marks instead of actual. The first one is a percentage. So when it's attainment and transitions to adulthood improvement group in 2018-19, it's got a percentage, but there's no actual figure. And then in the bottom one in 2020-21, the number of meals provided, and we don't have a figure in there either.
Yeah, so apologies for him again. I think the percentages I was hopeful of getting this data through and updating that, and apologies actually slipped through without being fully updated. So I'll get the right data if that's acceptable over to Michelle. Okay,
that would just be helpful, and then we can, if the papers are online, we can get that kind of updated as well. And on page 160, there's mention of our National Improvement Framework, a self-evaluation. I think there was a link to be put in there. I'm not sure whether we had that either. So if we could get that link, that would be good.
Yeah.
And the last one from me, you'll be pleased to hear, is actually in relation to page 174. And in there's mention of the Scottish Government has announced several new measures to support people experiencing poverty. And there's some examples given. Furlough scheme is given. The furlough scheme is actually a UK government scheme. So I think we should reflect that. There's obviously mention of financial grants for certain groups which have come from Scottish Government. But if we're mentioning furlough, I think we need to recognise that's a UK government scheme, or was a UK government scheme. Okay.
Thanks.
That was all that I had in relation to that, Derek. So I appreciate it's difficult when you don't have the national figures, but hopefully we will get them in the very near future. So I'm not seeing any further hands up. So I take it we can maybe just formalise the recommendations. They were on page 144, and we are really just noting the content of the report that once the national figures are available, they'll be updated, and noting that the full Child Poverty Action Report will be submitted to community planning once we have that data available. So are we content to agree those recommendations? Not seeing anybody dissenting, so I'll take that as agreement. Thanks very much, Derek, for that and answering questions. Appreciate that. Okay, that takes us on to item 4.2 now, which is our Community Learning and Development Plan, which is going to run from 2021 through to 2024. And I think we've got Colin Wright with us. Yes, I'm seeing him on my screen now, who is just going to give us a little bit of an introduction and then take any questions anybody has. So over to you, Colin. Thank you.
Thank you. Very quickly, the plan sets out the aspirations of partners across the city in terms of delivering the community learning and development outcomes for the city, particularly around improved life chances for people of all ages through learning and through personal development, and around supporting inclusive and influential communities and community groups. I think hopefully people recognise that there's a very close linkage of the plan to the LOIP and to the development of the LOIP, and we've tried to be much more effective in this version of the plan in showing where it helps to deliver the LOIP outcomes, going through particularly around work with young people, around supporting well-being, supporting attainment and supporting their involvement in activities, in adults in terms of supporting learning, employability, and a particular focus on well-being and outdoor learning within the plan. In terms of communities, supporting resilience, empowerment, their active involvement in bringing forward projects in their community, and again, use of the outdoors. The plan itself was the product during the COVID epidemic of quite a large amount of online consultation with groups. So it feels like it's been a very collaborative plan with a lot of involvement from a lot of different agencies and communities and learners. I think we recognise though that some people were more able to participate than others at that stage just because of the methods we're using. So it's very much a dynamic and flexible plan. There's room for it to be improved and updated, and I think part of the next stage is just to continue to consult young people and continue to consult adults about what they feel really needs to happen against the aspirations in the plan. So it's not a dead document that's just going to sit there. I think that's probably enough comment, and maybe hand over for questions now.
Thanks very much, Colin. That's really useful, because that was my question actually, which was around, you know, I noticed from the report and the plan itself that there had been a large amount of engagement with communities, which I thought was really positive. But as you've mentioned, we've had to use methods like online because of the current situation, and it was really just around whether we could get assurances that that wider group that maybe hasn't been able to participate in that would have an opportunity to help shape it. But I think you've answered that by saying that the plan is flexible and a living document, I suppose, that can be adapted. So that's helpful for me. I'm not seeing any hands at the moment, but I'll maybe give a few more comments myself and then see if anybody comes in. You know, I think it's a good plan. I know it's been before the Operational Delivery Committee at the Council already, Colin, so the Council has had an opportunity to look at that. We obviously, as a local authority, do have responsibility for meeting that community learning and development requirements through the regulations. But I think we all realise that if we are to be successful in delivering that community learning on the ground, then we need to work with partners. So I think it is important that we have it before the board today, so that the partners can have that opportunity to have input into it as well. And I think, I mean, the alignment to the LOIP is really good. I think the way the plan is laid out, it helps us to see directly how that is happening. and also the locality plans, because as you've mentioned there, it is about the communities and their input, and we're getting that through the locality plans, I think, about what is actually needed in the different areas within the city, which I think is useful as well. So thanks to you and everybody else that's been involved in pulling that together, because it's not been an easy piece of work, I know, because of the current restrictions. So just to extend my thanks. And I've talked a little bit now, so I've finally got a hand up. So I'm glad. I'll bring in Paul O'Connor, who's got his hand up, and I'm sure he's got a number of things he maybe wants to raise in the plan, given the work that he does out in the community. So over to you, Paul.
Thanks very much, convener. Hello, Colin. How you doing? It's good to see you.
Good afternoon, Paul.
Colin, I've looked through the plan. There's a lot of really positive stuff in there, and you can see there's been a lot of attention paid to listening to people and the feedback. I took part in one of it, and I'd emailed in some feedback as well. So thanks very much. And it is really good to see, you know, it aligns to the LOIP and all the various projects that's going on there. But Colin, there was one wee bit that I'd asked in a previous community planning meeting, and I think also during the consultation. You've got the new resource for full-time people working. I think it's a full-time, maybe 20 minimum to work with the young people, plus the existing resource. And one of the points I'd made previously was about getting the staff working in the evenings where the young people are needing it most, right across Aberdeen. So I did see a wee bit mentioned in the report, working in the evenings and various projects. Could you maybe expand upon that? Because I think that's one of the biggest needs. I know that the staff are in the school doing really important projects, but I always strongly believe the biggest need is in the communities in the evening, where there is a lot of need there, and not as much youth clubs and projects as there used to be. I know there is a lot of good stuff going on, but could you maybe expand upon that? You know, and is there hope of putting more of the staff into the communities in the evening?
So yeah, the plan itself, as you recognise, Paul, it has the aspiration to increase activities for young people in the community. As part of that, it will be about directing staff time where available to do that. You mentioned the extra resource that's going into supporting young people in schools, and our hope would be that the resource that's going into schools to support young people with their attainment and well-being can also be used to some degree linked into evening work. So that will be one aspect of it. We will be in the position of reinstating existing youth work resources in the community, but also working with the partners to look at what more we can do. So for example, during the development of the plan, we worked very closely with the police, street sport and a number of other agencies to increase their level of youth activity around Tesco's and the Langstracht, and we'll be looking to duplicate that kind of project elsewhere, which increases activity. But I think the plan and the locality plans also make a point of emphasising the importance of involving communities in helping to design and deliver the activities for young people, not leaving them to get on with it themselves, but supporting them to do what they feel they can do and contribute what they feel they can do. So the plan also includes the need to work with communities to help them design what's available for young people in communities.
Jenny, if I could come back.
Yes, absolutely, Paul, come back.
Colin, I'm really happy you mentioned the supermarket success, because it was in the papers as well, and it was really highlighted the huge benefits of having a resource to support the young folk at night. And I think there's no one sector can do it on their own. There's the third sector can, the council can, but it is that partnership. So I'm really kind of happy to see that, and that is really a shining example when your staff are getting in there working with the communities, what can be achieved. So more of that, please, across the city. And so thanks for taking on that point.
Yeah, I think that's the aspiration, certainly within the plan, to deliver in that way.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean, thanks for that, and you know, I was pleased as well, Colin, that you brought that one up, because I live not far from that Tesco's, and I know the issues that there had been with kind of youth antisocial behaviour and things, and the huge difference that there's been. And I know, I mean, what's really pleasing about it is a project that came from the community. You know, they you know, sort of pulled together what they felt was necessary in that, and I know that partners have stepped in to deliver on that. And I think it just shows you that when we work with communities, we can really bring forward proposals that you know, meet the needs, and also help to, make improvements around some of the issues that communities are experiencing as well. So it was a really great example. I thought I saw another hand come up and maybe go back down again. Was it Gordon?
Yeah, yes, it was, Chair. Thank you. I sort of kind of changed my mind, but thanks very much, Colin. I noticed you mentioned the establishment of an adult learning providers network, which sounds really valuable, actually, looking at the list of participant providers. I actually wondered, Colin, is there such a thing as an adult learners practitioners network? Is that something there already is? But the point really being is a means of bringing a broad range of practitioners together. Is that something that's out there?
I don't think there is I'm not aware of a practitioners network as such, although the providers network has started, and effectively that brings practitioners or their representatives together. So, but an actual practitioners network, I'm not sure.
Just to give you what's in my mind, Colin, because I can see the benefit of that. So, for example, my own organisation wouldn't be there as a provider of learning in that sense, although we have got free learning available through things like My World of Work. But it might be from the point of view of developing the relationships with people around referrals, as you're working with them. So that's why I was thinking about practitioners. And I take your point that there are practitioners who are around the table, but it's a restricted number, and I just wondered if there was a way of broadening links with other professionals outside of the providers, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I'm sure these individuals are going to need help and support from other people.
Yes, so I would say the adult learning providers have a wide range of linkages to other organisations. So in a way, they're bringing that together, Gordon. I think part of what they're looking at is about how they outreach further. So it may well be that a practitioners network is a useful way of moving that forward, and I'll certainly take that back as a suggestion to them as something to do. They certainly, I don't think it stops at just a group of people meeting around a table and identifying priorities. It goes beyond that to what's the most effective way of delivering these priorities. So it may well be that they choose a number of routes as ways of bringing people together and making sure that they reach out into the community as wide as possible. I certainly know that they would be linking to community groups again to access learners and using learners for that. So maybe I can come back to you more about it out with the meeting.
Yeah, please do, Colin. That's a good offer, and I mean, I can link you with one of my local managers as well, if that's helpful. So thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thanks for that, Gordon. I'm sure Colin will follow up on that. I'll bring in Caroline next because she's got her hand up.
Thanks, Colin. So thanks for the report, really helpful. What wasn't clear to me from reading it is how the NHS are contributing to this agenda. So I wondered if there was anything you wanted to add, and if not, then I would welcome a conversation with you offline to help me understand where we're at currently in providing that partnership support and any opportunities that you see. I'll also pick up with Susan, our DPH. I don't know if she's on the call, I can't see through all the names, but absolutely listening to the conversation and thinking about the size and the opportunities that our organisation presents. I would like to know that we are contributing effectively. So happy to hear anything that's not either I'm missing in the report or that's not explicit. And then if not, happy to have a conversation with you out with the meeting.
Okay, so I guess it's similar to Gordon's question, almost that there are links to people within the NHS around aspects of the work. So I think there was mention of health visitors earlier on who working quite closely with the family learning team in terms of identifying people who would most need support from that team, and there are other similar links. I don't think there's any, it probably doesn't mention any explicit contribution because there isn't necessarily any explicit contribution. It's more around relationships and close working on the ground, but I'm quite happy to discuss what we could put more detailed there. Since the plan was published, was brought forward, we've also had some discussions with people from your public health section around community health and well-being around mental health and how we can develop projects around that in the communities in Aberdeen. So I think potentially that's something that could be added to the plan when we come to produce another draft, but that's the early stages of the discussion, but it's certainly going forward. I don't know if that helps, and I'm happy to come back with more.
Thanks. Can I just come back to that, Jenny?
Yes, of course, yeah.
So Colin, thank you. Just to be clear, it's not about a critique of the report. I found the report really helpful. My questioning was to make sure we are contributing effectively as a partner. So I'll pick it up with Susan and happy to pick it up with yourself, and let's see if we can do both that relational piece, but also perhaps some explicit stuff.
Okay.
Thanks for that, Caroline, and it's welcome, you know, that you're obviously looking at, you know, how can we play as full a part as possible within that in the community learning plans and things. I'm sure Colin will be pleased to you know, have further discussions with yourself and Susan and others around that, how we can facilitate that and reflect it in the plan as well, so that everybody's aware of the contributions partners are making. So thank you for that. I'm not seeing any further hands, Colin, but I did have one further question myself. I notice in the plan, page 218, there's mention of private sector support, and we obviously list the Chamber of Commerce there supporting employability. And I just wondered, you know, I you know, took part in an event last week which was run by Community Planning around responsible business and their contribution that they're making as a result of that. And I wondered if there was an opportunity for us to reflect some of that within the plan as well, because I know that on the ground there is quite a lot of activity from our responsible business community where they offer that kind of mentoring and things and you know, help and support. It's not always a financial contribution. Sometimes it's related to other aspects. And I just wondered if you know, if we'd looked at that as we were drawing the report up, and whether there might be an opportunity to reflect that a bit more, and that coming from the private sector, because I think it's important that we work across all partners.
Yeah, well, certainly I think on the ground, as you say, the private sector are making a contribution, which perhaps isn't fully reflected in the plan. So I'm happy to go back and try to detail that a bit more, and again to include that in any draft coming forward to reflect the contribution they're making.
Okay, I think that would be good if we could, and you know, obviously Michelle, I'm sure would be happy to liaise with you about the work that we've done with business in the community and things to strengthen those links, and you know, also to reflect how some of those contributions are being made, because I think it's also about making our communities aware that there are opportunities out there to tap into as well. So I think if we could do that, that would be good.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. As I say, I'm not seeing any further hands around this, so I'll take it that people are content with what they've seen. The recommendation is on page 180, which is that we endorse the plan. And I take it that people are content to do that, not seeing anybody indicating otherwise. So thanks again, Colin, for bringing the plan forward and also for answering questions today. I think that's been really helpful. So thank you for that.
My pleasure.
Okay, that now takes us on to item 4.3, which is the summary refreshed local outcome improvement plan 2016 to 26. And it's here for approval. So I mean, I think it speaks for itself. We've asked, as we do with a number of our documents, to try and make them into a more user-friendly version. And I think this certainly does that. Sometimes community planning can be a little complex for people that haven't been around it for a long time. And I think it helps us maybe to get that message out. I don't know whether anybody has any questions or comments on this. I notice Gail's come onto my screen. I'm not sure she's getting ready to answer any questions people might have, but have we got any questions or comments on the plan? Goodness, not seeing anybody indicating at all, Gail. So I take it that everybody is hugely happy with it. As I say, I think it's a very good version. It's you know, I think it helps people to understand, and I think if we can try to push it out as widely as possible, you know, through the channels that we have, but also, you know, social media and stuff like that, I think it's helpful if people can just be able to see that on the ground.
So
Did you want to make any comments, Gail?
I was just delighted that nobody had any comments about the symbols, because picking the symbols is always the most complicated part. But yeah, just to reiterate that point, that if any of the partners want to have access to it and make sure that they're using their own communication channels, just to make sure it's as widely distributed as possible, that would be much appreciated by Michelle.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. I'll bring in George McDonald, because he's got his hand up.
Yeah, it was just on that point, Chair. Can we get a link or something that gives us that kind of the format that people can read? Because I'm conscious sometimes if we sort of cut and paste it and share it with our comms people, it's not the kind of the right format that comes up, etc. But if you could share that through Emma, I'll make sure that gets pushed out on our channels. And we've got collectively about 150,000 followers across the entire region in different channels, and I'm sure if you put everybody together, it would be a fair audience that we could actually attract. So no, that would be great if you could. Thanks, Gail.
That'd be really helpful. Thanks.
Yeah, that's great. Good comments, George, and we'll make sure that goes out to everybody so they've got the opportunity to do that. Okay, not seeing any other hands. So as I say, it's here for approve it. I'll take it that people are content to approve it. Yeah, okay. Right, that now takes us on to the very last item, I think, on the agenda, which was just the date of the next meeting, which is the 23rd of February. Oh, Ken. Yes, can I bring Ken in first?
Chair, just before you finish, it's just to note that this will actually be my last partnership board meeting. I stepped down as the chair of NESCOL early in the new year, and the Scottish Government will start the process for appointing my successor. I'm not able to stay on as chair. I've fulfilled my tenure. So I just wanted to thank you and colleagues for the opportunity to contribute to discussions. I'm pleased that the NESCOL strategic plan was here today, and I think demonstrates the close alignment that we've attempted to make between the CPP and the college. Anyway, I wish you all well in your endeavours going forward. I'll keep a watchful eye on you all. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ken. And you maybe realise that we actually thought you had a further meeting left. We thought we were going to be able to keep you in February. Otherwise, I would have said a few words about you at the beginning, as I did with Bruce. But thanks for reminding us that this is your last meeting. I mean, I just want to say that I think you've been a really excellent board member in the contributions that you've made in your time on community planning Aberdeen. And as you've mentioned here, I think it is really fitting that the NESCOL strategic plan was before us today, because what we've always been trying to do throughout the process of the time that I've been on the partnership is to make sure that partners' strategic plans are becoming aligned to the local outcome improvement plan, because that is the way that we'll be able to channel the scant resource that we all have nowadays into the most, into the areas that are most in need and that will make the biggest difference and help us to achieve the outcomes that we've laid out. And I think, Ken, you've always demonstrated your willingness to make sure that the college are playing a full part. And even before that, because I know your involvement with other organisations prior to that, you've always made sure that they're aligned, and you've worked in partnership with others across the city for the benefit of our communities. And so you will be a big loss to the board. I hope that whoever your replacement is has the same commitment to community planning as you've had. Because I think we'll be a better board for that. And I'm sure you won't be, even in your retirement away from the board, you won't be hanging your jacket up completely and running off into the sunset. So I hope that you'll still continue to take an interest in what's happening both within the board and the city as well, and give us your views, because your experience is valuable, incredibly valuable to us. And as George said, I think the conversations that we had earlier in the year were really helpful to us. And I think that's reflected in the strategic plan, that you gave us an assurance that you would make sure that the strategic plan was aligned, and you've lived up to that promise, and we thank you very much for that. and you know, look forward to catching up you, maybe not on the board, but in other places in Aberdeen as we move forward. So thank you. I'll maybe bring in George because he's coming at my screen. He maybe wants to just add a few words.
No, I just echo that, Ken. I really appreciate your support going back for many, many years, and Jenny's eloquently covered your commitment to the partnership across Aberdeen. I'm sure you won't be a stranger in terms of your retirement. You might be, you might disappear from these shores, who knows what you'll do, but you'll certainly be a miss from the college perspective and a number of other elements on the board. So a heartfelt thanks from me from a police perspective, but also from the wider partnership. So thanks very much, Ken, it's appreciated.
Thanks for that, George. And so, yeah, as I say, the next meeting will be on the 23rd of February. It will be here before we know it, I'm sure, if it goes as quickly as this year has. But just to thank everybody who's played a part over the last year on the board. I think it hasn't been easy given the COVID situation, particularly given that we were refreshing the local outcome improvement plan. I think our officers and officials right across the partnership have done a really great job in moving that process forward, and I think board members have helped to make sure that we've shaped up a plan that will help us to achieve the outcomes that the people and communities of Aberdeen need and deserve. And I just wish everybody a very happy Christmas. I hope you all get an opportunity to relax a bit and enjoy it with family and friends, and come back in the new year refreshed to continue the fight and make sure that we can deliver the LOIP for, as I say, for our communities moving forward. So just thank you all, and I hope you all have a lovely festive season, and look forward to seeing you all in the new year.
Thank you. You too.
Sure, thanks, folks. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.